Hi, I'm Vanessa Anderson.
And I'm Stephanie Cooley.
It's time to give ourselves a moment to be real, to express all of motherhood.
Mothering is beautiful. It's wonderful.
And you know what? It's fucked up too.
Come hang out with us. We're the real motherfuckers.
Have you had a recent surgery or a scar you want to heal?
Laser MD Ultra is a skin resurfacing treatment that helps rebuild glowing, healthy skin.
There are many stages to healing. Let Avo Aesthetics help you with one of them.
Feel safe, feel beautiful at Avo Aesthetics in Bonsall, California. Check them out at www.avomedspa.com. Today we are talking about imposter syndrome. Here's a definition from a Very Well Mind article. Imposter syndrome is the psychological experience of feeling like a fake or a phony despite any genuine success that you have achieved. It can show up in the context of work, relationships, friendships, or just overall. It's a very common and frustrating phenomenon because it holds us back from the self-confidence we've earned and deserve to feel. As we were preparing for this episode, I myself look inward. From day one of every single job I've done, from going to college, to writing, to a 15-year career in PR, to this very podcast, I've been knee-deep in imposter syndrome. I remember when Vanessa and I started recording episodes, I had this little voice in my head saying things like, Steph, people will think you are shit. Are you even speaking words that make sense? Why would you give yourself a mic? I'll be honest with you. That voice still is in my head, but it has lessened. I often question, will that voice ever leave? We are going to discuss it with our guest today. Her name is Reyna Beckler. She is a hot yoga teacher, and you can think of the word hot in any way you want. She has a diehard following of students, and she runs and owns 2 yoga studios in 2 cities. And guess what? She is dealing with imposter syndrome. Or maybe she's conquered it. Let's find out. So, Reyna.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. What an honor. I'm so honored to be part of this podcast with you two.
Yeah. So what do you think of what I read with that definition of imposter syndrome?
Yes. So I think, well, for one, it is not recognized as any kind of disorder. It's not, there's no pill that you can take, you know, it's just, like you said, a psychological phenomenon. And it's, and when I started researching it or looking more into it, I was kind of blown away at how common it is, you know, like to learn that so many people at one point or another in our lives, we deal with this this feeling of being an imposter. And what the thing that struck me actually the most was that female, you know, women experience it more often, and minority women, you know, or minorities. So I was like, dang, that's like the double whammy for me, you know. And so, but it's these feelings of persistent self-doubt and the feelings of being a fraud. And so it wasn't until just a few years ago that I'm sure I heard it before, but what I actually heard it as a label. Somebody did label me as having imposter syndrome, and I was like, holy crap, you know, I was embarrassed. I just felt like, oh, they found me out, and now they put this label on me. And, you know, where before I was just like, just dealing with all this shit that I thought, oh, it's part of me being the Latina, the minority, the female, the little meek little me. So yeah, it's,
Vanessa and I were talking about this. It's like up until that point, you were just faking it till you make it.
Yeah.
That's what I said. We say that. We fake it till we make it. But, you know, I'll go into that later. I want you to keep going.
Yeah.
But there's something to this.
I have a lot to say about the fake it till you make it mentality also. But yeah, like I mean, I've realized that I've been dealing with it for my entire life. And I try to go back and pinpoint, like, how did this start? When did it start? And, there's so many things. But like I said, it wasn't until just a few years ago when I was interviewing a yoga teacher to come and work, and he had quite a following. He had done many things. He had all this experience, and he was coming from a well-known studio. And I felt like, well, first of all, why does he want to come teach for me at my little rinky-dink studio, And I didn't think I was a big deal, and I'm interviewing him. I was almost like, making up excuses for myself, like, we're a small town and we have a small community. And I was almost like making an excuse, like, if you start teaching here, you might not have the great following you had before, and it was weird. I felt uncomfortable. I almost felt like he was interviewing me. And so that's we had a great conversation. I found out he was really, really well, so down to earth, so friendly, so loving, so accepting, and I felt so comfortable. And at the end, I still had to say, I don't know what I said, but he said, "Yeah, it's imposter syndrome," and I was like, "Whoa, whoa!" Like
Yeah.
he found me out. It was like, crap. Like now I'm like, it's out there. Like I'm an imposter. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But from that point forward, that's when I started to look more deeply into it and try to find out, like, what is it, where does it come from, and why do I feel this?
We often belittle ourselves in front of people when we're in these positions of, we think, power, or if we think that we're in this status and there's someone else that we admire. Or I often feel like if someone gives me a compliment, I struggle. This is something I work on. I struggle to just say thank you.
Yes.
Or to acknowledge my success, even though the voice inside me wants to belittle the compliment so bad.
Yeah. And I think in our world today, just the overdrive of needing to worry about multitask, all that good stuff. Like our mind likes to talk us out of the things we're possibly good at or our dreams. It gets in our way. It likes to, say you're not good enough. It scares us. I don't know. But then at the same time, I'm like, how is this beneficial? Because even if something's going to be amazing, like I was telling Steph, that when we were in Tulum and we were all jumping off these cliffs, like, it's going to be fun, but right before you jump, you're like, fuck, there's rocks. Am I going to land on something? Like, even when it's something good, you still have your mind trying to help you survive. You know what I mean? But I also want to say is, the fake it till you make it, sometimes it can go against you, but sometimes it can go for you because your thoughts become who you want to be, right? Like, like I was even saying a health thing that I had with Steph earlier. I said I was thinking my whole life I had like this rash in my upper thigh that I just could not get rid of through doctors, through anything. And I read this book. It said, believe that it can go away if you want it to. Tell your body what it wants it to do and it'll do it. And then I did, and it's been gone since I've done that. So I was like, shit, the power of the mind is the thing, right? Yeah. It can either work against us or for us. So I'm so happy that you brought this forward and that you're so brave to say, I have identified with this and I'm working through it. And you have come so far, Reyna. And today we're going to go on a journey with you. You're going to take us from where we started in our conversation right now, but we're going to reverse all the way to your childhood. And I know that we're going to take time to do this. It's a tender part of your life. So let's just go there, I guess. And we'll end up going to the pathways to growth that you've developed. So let's start from the beginning of your life and where you feel like you're comfortable starting with, and then we'll go forward.
Yeah, right. So much to unpack, but so I come from, Mexican parents. I was born here actually in this small town. I'm a small town girl, but I was, I guess when I first started to know that I was different, I was probably around 7. My first language was Spanish. And then to make the transition into kindergarten, I mean, I was just a little kid. I was having fun. And, my parents were just hardworking people that came from Mexico. I think they came here in 67, right after they got married, and always hardworking, hardworking. So that, that was always instilled in me, like you work hard to get ahead. So, but I just remember having fun. I was just a happy little kid, and when I first realized I was different, I must have been 7 or 8. I was playing with my neighborhood friends, and they were all just, thinking back, all white kids, and we were playing pretend, and then one of them had the idea, let's go get our My Little Ponies. Remember the My Little Ponies
Mm-hmm.
from back in the day? And I didn't have one. So we were all having fun until the thing came up with the My Little Ponies. And so this one girl, they were we were like, we're gonna play, and we're gonna play pretend, and we're gonna have our little, castle, except for Reyna. And then right then I was like, it I just remember running home, locking myself in the bathroom and crying, just crying and crying and crying because, I didn't have a My Little Pony that they didn't want to play with me. So that locking myself in the bathroom and crying had became my metaphor, like, for life. I was always like locking myself away crying. I didn't tell my mom, it was kind of one of those things. Your dad is like, I don't want to see you cry, right? I had the big mean um dad. Anyway, so from that point forward, everything, I was just always going away to hide and cry, whatever happened in my life. But so from that point forward, I started, things started to happen. I noticed that one day my dad was telling the story, and we were with friends, and he was saying how bragging about stuff. My dad was always a big talker, like a tall tale kind of person. So he was talking about us kids or whatever, and something came up about how I just picked up my bike and I started riding. He was talking about me. One day I just decided I'm going to ride a bike. I picked it up and started riding and bragging about, and then I chimed in and I said, no, Dad, like, I crashed my bike so many times into parked cars, into trees. And I was like, and he kind of, I didn't know at the time, but when we got home, he yelled at me. I got in trouble, and he's like, if I say this is what it is. You don't talk, you don't say anything to contradict. And because I made him look bad, right, in front of his friends, because I said, you're lying pretty much, Dad. And so and I didn't know at the time, taught me is that I can't be myself. I have to always talk myself up. I have to be someone else, right? Because I'm not good enough, right? If I crash my bike, I'm not good enough. So I have to, so that, and when I realized this and I went back and looked at my life, I'm like, I have always been kind of, like you said, faking it, like telling these stories and almost like acting, right, in my own life. Like I'm not me, I'm acting. And so all through my childhood, like, I didn't have the fancy clothes or any of that. Or I would say, oh, I did get a Guess sweatshirt. Remember, Guess was the big thing. Well, I'm older than you, but when I was in fifth, sixth grade and junior high, Guess jeans were the big thing. So, like, everyone came back from Christmas with their Guess bags and their Guess jeans. And I was like, oh, yeah, I got a Guess shirt. But I was, I left it in, it got wet because we were playing in the snow, and I left it in my grandma's dryer, whatever, it's because I didn't have one. And I always wanted to fit in. So I became like a storyteller, right? Like, how I wanted my life to be. And so that kind of became my thing throughout life. And then I was always very aware that I was poor, that I was not popular, that I was Mexican, and that whole thing kind of, um, I don't know, it set me back, I guess, always having in the back of my mind, like, I'm Mexican, and my parents not taking us to like the fancy restaurants because we're Mexican, we don't eat there. Like, we always knew because, and it was, I didn't realize how much it affected me until I became an adult, and I felt I can't shop at that department store because I'm not worthy of having nice clothes, of having, I can't get my hair done at a salon because, we go to our tia's house to cut your hair, like you don't, right? It's
Yeah.
like you don't do these things because you're Mexican. Like we don't buy brand new things. My dad never ever in his life has owned a brand new car because, it's like, why would you waste your money on a brand new car when you can get something just as good for blah, blah, blah. That's how I grew up, just not thinking I'm not worthy of whatever, like I am just not worthy.
I,
So
I want to just to say that I'm going to validate some of the stuff you're saying because our town was known. I mean, I think we had like the KKK vice president living in
totally.
Fallbrook in like the up
Yep.
into the 90s. But, there's some people like, oh, quit singing this story of, being discriminated against. But you also came from the generation that came in through the Cesar Chavez like era, like of when a lot of Mexicanos came through, including my parents in the 60s. Like that was a huge time of immigration before then, when the Mexicanos and a lot of Central Americans came, but a lot of Mexicans, migrants came. And there was a lot of people looking down on the migrants because or anyone Hispanic, because the kids would jump from school to schools. They saw themselves as unstable families, that they didn't value education. And it was not that they didn't, it's just they had to move where the jobs were,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So there's like this whole culture of what people understood what a Mexican family was, or just our culture in general. Like it's assimilation, right? So you were in a big time phase of assimilation. It started in the late 60s till a lot of your era too. Like I'm on that tail end, the beginning of that era of it being more accepted, but still had the stigma. But you
Yeah.
were like at the tail end of it being still what it was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. That was a big era of assimilation for Americans who were, of a different race. You just had to, you were part of, our cultures were so rich from our motherlands that it was still in your family home. You still had your strong traditions, but yet when you stepped out of your house, you had a different culture that you
Yeah.
were trying to be a part of. So you're in two different worlds, right? It's like
Mhm.
Selena when she says, when I go to Mexico, I'm not Mexican enough to be Mexican because I'm an American. And when I come to the United States, I am not American enough. And
Right.
you do feel that sometimes, it's, I don't know if you still feel it. I feel it less now, but it
Yeah.
was definitely prevalent when you were growing up. So I just wanted to credit you for your experience and for that part and time of the world. It is real. That was really happening to a lot of children, and you happen
Yeah.
to be one of them. So thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that so far.
Yeah. No. And just to say a little more on that, it totally, like that's exactly how I felt. And I didn't realize Selena said that, because yeah, I felt like I am not Mexican enough to be with like the Mexicans, they didn't accept me. Like I wasn't, they would call me, the Mexicans would call me slurs like, weta or whatever. And then of course the Americans would, back in the 80s, there was this canned beans called Rosarita beans. I don't know if they still exist, but that's what I was called, Rosarita beans, by my sixth grade school partners. So, and so again, I felt like I didn't know where I belonged. Like I didn't. I mean, I was American, being raised here, but then go home and you speak Spanish and you eat the beans and you eat the tortillas and you have the big family gatherings and all that, and your mom makes tamales for Thanksgiving instead of baking a turkey in the oven. So for the longest time, I just thought, oh, everyone eats turkey tamales on Thanksgiving.
Turkey
And
everything.
Yeah.
Turkey
right,
everything after Thanksgiving for
right.
weeks.
Yeah. So, I mean, when we would have potlucks at school, my mom would send me with a dozen tortillas and, kids are bringing whatever, cookies and chips. And my mom
Mhm.
would send me with tortillas. I was like,
Dude,
oh my God.
your teacher probably loved that shit better than anything else.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We were the
Absolutely.
best gift. Fuck the other
Yes.
sweets.
Yep. Yep. So, yeah. And, like I was not, like I liked the Adams and the Mikes and the Davids. I didn't like I wasn't attracted to Mexican boys, and I ended up marrying a Mexican. My first marriage, because that's what I thought I had to do. Like we marry Mexicans, we have kids, the wife is the caregiver and the dishes in the laundry and the all that. Like that was my role. That's what I went into because that's what I was modeled for me. And that's not what I just felt like then an imposter in my own life, you know, like this is not my life. And of course that didn't work out, you know. I was divorced. I was 21 going through a divorce and all that because one day I woke up and I'm like, wait a minute, like why, like I have a job, he has a job, you know, we have a kid, like why am I coming home from work and doing all the cooking and cleaning and laundry and ironing and all that, and this motherfucker just comes home and gets drunk, you know, and then if his dinner's not ready, he fucking starts to slap me around, and it was horrible. That's another story, you know, like, but I realized this is not what I signed up for. This is not fair. This is not what I want. And so, but yeah, just getting through all that. I mean, as an adult, I realized, okay, I am just as worthy as doing all the things like the white people do, you know, and even in high school when all my friends were applying for colleges and going off to college, and I didn't think I was good enough. Like, first of all, nobody helped me fill out a college application. Nobody helped me, you know, because I just think, oh, we're Mexican. We don't go to college. We don't go to no university, you know, we go to JCs. And that's exactly what I did. I went to, you know, junior college and all that. But then, you know, as an adult, I realized, okay, no, this is wrong. And yes, I do deserve and I am worthy, but you know, to then it was still a big part of my life until just recently, I think. I don't and I
So
don't think
can you I'm not meaning to interject, but what I want to kind of just reflect and give you credit for that moment um that you realize this is not for me and I'm better. Like
yes.
I deserve better. Was there something that inspired you? Was there an event that happened that day where it just triggered like I'm done. I'm doing this. You kind of triggered yourself to change that frame of mind. What was that?
Well, it was, yes, I did wake up one day and I said, I'm done and I'm out of here. But it was a slow progression from when I was married to this Mexican man, and he did not want me to get better. Like he was holding me back. I wanted to go to school. I was, you know, I was being what women are in this country, right? I was driving, I was writing checks, I was doing all that, and he just did not want me to be better. His dream was to be in a freaking band and play in bars, you know, like he had a day job, but he wanted to be in a freaking band. And he didn't have any real like goals, you know. I had goals. I was putting myself through school. I had a baby. I was working full time, and so all that. And then plus he was a freaking alcoholic and a wife beater, you know, on top of all that. So one day I just, after, you know, a long time, a couple of years of trying to get him to change into, you know, I realized he's never going to change. I'm the one that has to change. And then I woke up one day and I just pretty much said, I'm done. Like, adios, motherfucker, pretty much, you know, like I'm out of here. And so that became a big, long, drawn out thing because he was a Mexican machista, like no woman's gonna leave me, and he became even more abusive and threatening. Anyway, a lot of things happened. He ended up in prison for, you know, trying to kill me, showing up at my door at, you know, 2 in the morning and knocking me out cold. And anyway, so it took a lot for me to finally free myself of this monster. And so, but yeah, and I think, I mean, I tell my story a lot. I mean, I've told this story. I've never been ashamed of it. I've told my story, and I always hear these like, "You're so brave. You're so brave." And I was scared shitless. Like did not think I was brave at all. I mean, I had a toddler. I was just trying to survive and to keep her alive and all that. And it's just like the things that you do to survive. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's how I look at it. Everything I've done in my life is just surviving, you
Mm-hmm.
know, surviving. And so
But there is something in you that you chose to physically make the change. And I think that this is the interesting concept, is that we mentally think this way, but it's so hard to physically do the change.
Yes.
I had written something down about this woman who talked about, she's this influencer, and she said in a video called How to Be a Confident Bitch. She basically says she has one particularly good skill, and it's when it comes to doing things that she's scared to do, she separates her mental experience from her physical experience. So she said physical ability to do the physical thing and the rest will take care of itself. So it seems like that's what you've been doing, a life of like, you're scared and you feel like you need something better, and you just kind of just pushed yourself forward to do it. I mean, what are your thoughts on like having the courage to do things that scare you?
Yeah, I've just never thought of myself as being a courageous person. I just think like this is what it's like, the saying, like evolve or die, right? It's just pretty much been a survival instinct for me, you know? And so a lot of the things are just me getting out of my comfort zone. And, you know, like I'm a Leo, so I'm like, I'm a fucking Leo, like, you know, um, remember who the fuck you are. Is That's the thing I keep saying. Like I just have this vision of like the lioness in me, like remembering who I am. And so I get these, I guess, feelings of confidence and courage, and then that kind of pushes me through the walls that I create. And then when I get there, I'm like, holy shit, now I'm scared again. You know, I
Yeah.
become the scared
It's
little.
actually okay to be scared. It's
Yeah,
okay to be, you can be scared and still do the thing. You
yeah,
know,
Yeah.
I think that that's what trips us a lot, is that like, we're scared. So therefore we're not going to do it. We're like, no, we can be scared and we can do the thing that scares
that
us.
was the best parenting advice that my dad ever, one of the top that he ever gave me. I'd be like, I'm scared, I don't want to do it. He goes, if you weren't scared and if you weren't excited in life, it wouldn't be worth living.
yeah,
He goes, when you're done with those emotions, you're going to feel a different level of emotion. You're going to feel proud, or you might learn a lesson and be let down. He's all, but you have to push through that barrier. All of us do. We have this survival. It's a survival mechanism that fucks us. Like we just said in the beginning, it'll either go for us or against us. And I think when we fear, it's because we have that comfort zone that we're like coming out of, right? You're kind of like breaking through the glass of that blanket or ripping it apart as you're like, this isn't working for anymore. I need another layer. So, yeah. Can you hear me? I'm like, oh, hold on, we'll do a little break. So hang on, Julius, my mic doesn't seem to be working, so let's take a pause. Did you put both of us on the Vocaster?
It is. I mean, it's both of us running. See?
When I talked, it does it.
That's better.
Yeah.
You gotta kiss it.
I gotta lick it. Okay, sorry.
It's better there.
Yeah.
Wait,
I'm not gonna move. I'm gonna stay right here. Okay. This is fascinating. I mean, I'm so happy that you brought this forth, because it's embarrassing to talk about this. We all have it at some point in our lives and some point in our day. Like you even imposter how you're truly feeling when someone asks you, how are you doing? You always say good, and you could be fucking dying inside, and it's not even the truth.
Yeah.
You know, that's imposter syndrome right there. A little bit of it. But I go ahead and move on. So you went from an abusive relationship, learning to assimilate in a new culture, embracing wanting to be an independent woman. And also, I know that you're doing this for your daughter because you wanted her to have a different example of what it is to be a woman, especially in this modern time. So I think you were able to show her at least that exists, you know, that you can be a strong woman and you can do hard things if you need to do them. So that's such a gift that you gave your daughter.
Yeah. Being in your early 20s, having a daughter, basically raising her by yourself, it sounds like, and going to school, and, you know,
you're a Lifetime movie.
Yeah.
You're a fucking Lifetime movie.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point I had like 4 jobs, you know, like I had a morning job, an afternoon job, and, you know, an after work job, and then a weekend job to have my own apartment with my own car and raise my own kid, you know, and I was, a lot of what fueled me was my parents were against my divorce. Even my mom who told me, go talk to the Catholic priest. And I said, I don't want to talk to the priest. Like, what's he going to tell me? To stick with my husband because I got married in the Catholic Church.
Hmm.
And my mom said to me, I could have left your dad dozens of times, but I didn't because I married him in the church and I did it for the kids. And I'm like, and I was like, Mom, I wish you would have left my dad, because it
Hmm.
would have been so much better for us kids. There was four of us to have one functional parent rather than two dysfunctional parents, And the thing with my parents, like I always thought they had the perfect marriage because there was never any arguing at home. There was never any fighting. There was never, because my dad was he was the head of the household. Nobody ever crossed him. My mom never talked back. And so she was very submissive. And that wasn't, and I didn't realize this until I was older. I just thought they had the perfect life. And I thought, that's what they modeled for me, right? And then when it clicked that no, this is bullshit, like this is not what a happy marriage is. But then I told my mom, I wish you would have left my dad. He was never he was never abusive to my mom. He never hurt her, slapped her around, nothing. But he was so freaking scary, 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 scary. Like we were terrified of him as kids. He was like the kids should be seen and not heard kind of dad. Okay, so that was my daddy issues, lots of daddy issues. But my mom, I was so surprised at my mom. Like, I just told you this because I hid the abuse from them until the day I left. I came running to them and I said, I need you to protect me from him. He's trying to kill me. And they had no idea. But I thought my mom for sure was gonna go fucking cut him up into pieces. Like I thought she was gonna kill him. And I thought my dad would at least protect me for being his daughter, right? No. My dad said, this is what my father said. You're going to leave your husband because he got drunk and he hit you? Like, that was what he said to me. Because he got drunk and yeah, that's not enough. And he said to me, because my daughter was 2, when when Cynthia gets older, I'm gonna tell her that the reason why she doesn't have a father is because of you being selfish, me, because I was selfish to leave him. And he just he said, who's influencing you? Who's telling you these things? Like, are your friends influencing you? Because they're not gonna help you. This is what he told me. Your friends are not going to be there for you. And guess what? Don't come to me for help. He told me that. Don't come to me. And I was like, got it, Dad. I'm never coming to you for help. And that what was fueled me. He, that I said, I will show you. Like, just watch me. I was like, I was on a mission. I'm like, I do not need your help. I don't need a fucking man. From that point forward, it was like I worked my ass off. I had my own apartment. I bought myself a brand new car, at age 20, 21, and I was working and like I said, putting myself through school. And it was like, I I don't know. I think that was maybe a gift or a blessing, that he kind of and my poor mom, too. Like she's a saint, she's an angel, but she's also, it's like this is my path, Mom. This is my life. Like this is what's working for you. I love you. You're great. You raised us, you nurtured us, but now I'm on my own path and I need to find my way. And so even though, I mean, I moved away to the next town, a few miles away, I felt like I need to get away from this, and I need to, for my daughter too, like this is, now it's not just me, I have this human that I'm responsible for, so so all that was good, and then I started dating a bunch of assholes again, and so it always snuck back, this feeling of being an imposter, always snuck back, even though I thought, look at me, I'm this badass bitch, always, came back to where, like, no, I'm not good enough, I mean, I dated a guy who was keeping me, like, it was like closet dating, you know, like he would never take me anywhere. He would never take me to a movie. We would always hang out at my house. And I thought, oh, he's ashamed of me. He's embarrassed of me. He doesn't, because he was white and I was Mexican, and that's the feelings I got. Well, it turns out because he had another girlfriend, and he I was like the secret girlfriend, you know, and so those kinds of things. I mean, I still think about that. I wish I could run into him and just let him have it, you know, like um, but because all those things, all those little things, you know, along um, my early adulthood kind of shaped me too, and you know, gave me the those feelings of being unworthy and an imposter, you know, even though I didn't recognize it back then. So, um, but if you want to jump in, because I can go into the next phase of my life. Um, so after my that horrible marriage and getting away from that abuse, you know, I dated a couple of jerks. Like I always wanted to have love, you know, be in love and um, just have a loving relationship, you know, where we mutually respect each other. But I just after that guy with the girlfriend, I I started dating another guy, and you know, I thought, oh, you know, he's good. He accepts my daughter, you know, but he was always trying to change me. You know, he saw me as being weak. And he would tell me all the time because I would come home and I would be frustrated about what happened at work, or I would have a fight with anyone, a friend or my sister, and he would tell me, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to say. You need to stand up for yourself. And I would be like, well, I can't go to work tomorrow and tell my boss to F off, you know, like I have a job. But he would tell me, if you're not doing this, you're weak. He told me, you have, you need rhino skin is what he would tell me, you know, like you're too soft. You need rhino skin. And he just never respected me for that because didn't, I wasn't tough enough, I guess. And he told me flat out, I'm never going to marry you. He said, I'm never going to marry you because I am just too weak. And I stayed with him, even though, and I don't know why, but I stayed with him until the day I woke up and I said, you know what, I'm done. I just had to go through it and live it and then realize. And then after that guy, I was like, okay, I'm done. Like I'm done dating, you know, like I'm gonna take a break. I'm just gonna focus on finishing my education and raising my daughter. And then of course that's when I met my fabulous husband Lee, you know, um, when I wasn't looking for love, but he yeah, yeah. So it was just an amazing connection that we had immediately. And so you know, we dated, we got married, and then I always came back to these feelings of being unworthy. Like I always, in the back of my mind, I thought, because you know, he's as white as they can get, white guy from Tennessee, right? And I always thought he's gonna find something better and he's gonna leave me. Like in the back of my mind, I always thought he's gonna leave me. He's gonna leave me. Like, and I became almost like my mom, you know, just this quiet wife, obeying and doing all the things and not, you know, not disturbing anything because I I just didn't feel like I was worthy, you know, like why does he love me? Why does he want to be with me? I never thought it was, I just always thought because he hasn't found something better. Always. And so I would almost, I don't know, I couldn't stand up for myself when I felt like, like if I had my own opinion or if I had a disagreement, I could not say, you know what, no, this is how I feel. This is what I think. Because I thought, no, he's going to get mad at me and he's going to leave me. And isn't like right now when I hear myself say it, I'm like, oh my gosh, what the hell was I thinking? Like, you know, I can't believe I ever felt that like that, you know, like I am just not worthy of love. and something is wrong with me, like where if I don't obey and if I don't behave a certain way, I'm just going to end up alone and unloved. So, I mean, we've been married, it'll be almost 23 years now, and it took me a long time to realize, well, he's not going anywhere. Like, he
Yeah.
actually loves me. And, and it was almost like I was almost fulfilling my own, my own fears were coming true, because I think I would do things to sabotage, you know, like it's going way too good. Like, I almost had to do something to say, see, now he's mad
Yeah.
at me. See, now I am a piece of shit and he's gonna leave me. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's like it's like this mind fuck thing, right? That people
Yeah.
talk about. Like, I was doing it to myself, but
Wow. Well, it's just like it does stem back to the childhood. Even the examples you gave us was like, anytime you stood up for yourself or were true, you got knocked down to say
Hmm.
don't, or you were yelled at, or
Yeah.
yep,
you were belittled. So
Or
it gets embedded in you after a
yep,
while.
yeah, and you were around people who wanted you to change and you
yep,
didn't want to, and so it just confuses you about
Mm-hmm.
who you
Mm-hmm.
should be.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. No,
Absolutely.
exactly. I never knew. Could never find my authentic self because I was always trying to be the person somebody else wanted me to be. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, like I said, I didn't realize that all this was part of being an imposter, having that feelings of being a fraud. And so so here's the other thing, like, I never graduated college. I never got my degree. I was here and there and doing all kinds of different things. And then I kind of worked my way up the ladder, from in my field. I started, at the bottom as an admin for an environmental engineering firm, and then I got into civil engineering, and I worked my way up, and I got promoted, and I did the work, and then I just never finished school. I never got my degree. So then those feelings of being an
Hmm.
imposter creeped in, like, I'm not good enough. I'm working with professional engineers and PhDs. And by the way, it's a man's industry, right? A
Right.
male dominated industry. And here I am, this Mexican girl, and I mean, I had so much experience and knowledge, and I just still felt like I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
So
You came from that era too, and we're from the same era too, where it's like if you don't have your degree, it's almost like this like
It's proof that you're
weird
good
proof
enough
or
or not.
worthiness. I think with the generation now, though, they are like fuck the degree. Like it's all about the experience and what they can do and their knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
And I want to acknowledge, and I've been doing this in my own life, and it could be coincidence or it could be it's true, but it seems like you were born into this experience for like a huge growth and energy, spirit, whatever the hell you want to call it. But it's this like path of you always having to go against the grain, but growing and having to realize. And it just seems
mhm.
like and it was in your personal life, in your professional life, in your own physical identity and your mental identity and your heart's identity. It's like this huge growth. It's like almost like you had to have like a supernova happen. You know what I mean? It's pretty amazing, actually, that you have done what you've done. And you should, and I know that you're giving yourself credit now, and I hope you are. But it was in your love life. It's the same theme in all the areas in your life, and you had to break that glass ceiling. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And I feel like that is I'm saying from my perspective of you, it's like that's your life's journey, and I can't wait to get to the end of the podcast because we're gonna get there. But I feel like it's a full circle from the beginning to the next theme to the next theme, and then and
Yeah.
they a lot of
You're like,
spiritual
you know
people.
what? I haven't done the hard in every
No,
aspect of my
I know.
life.
It's like
We're gonna do it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like, and I feel like there's the universe or whatever you want to call it. It's like you signed up for this, motherfucker. This
Yeah.
is your time to shine and grow. Like we're putting you in this little part of the, you know what I mean? I'm not saying it's everything, and I don't know how it works, but sometimes I put that perspective on myself, and it helps me push through. Like seems like a very common theme that keeps reoccurring in my life. Maybe I need to deal with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like from what you're telling us, Reyna, you have, and you
Yeah,
are.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's a daily thing, it's work that I have to do every single day, It's not just like, oh, I figured it out. Now
Yeah.
I have this, I know this the secret of life, or my life's purpose or whatever. It's a daily thing, and yeah, it still comes back, and I still I still struggle with it. And now, I mean, I have 3 children, and my youngest, she's graduating high school, and she's scared to death, no idea what she wants to do in life. And and I the advice that I give my children, I'm like, holy shit. I step back, I'm like, I should follow my own advice, because I have such great advice that I give. But then, you know what? I'm like, yeah, practice what you preach. And I mean, I tell my kids all the time when they say I can't, and I say, you can't yet. And I always say, nobody, everyone, we're all infants. We don't know anything. We don't even know how to talk, but we learn. Everything that anyone has ever done is because they have learned how to do it. And, this is what I try to teach my kids. Don't be afraid. Like, you are amazing, and and then I think, oh yeah, I have to take that advice too. But so yeah, it was a journey to get to where I am now. This career that I had for 16 plus years. When I was at the end, when I quit my job, and I was actually an engineer in training. I was an EIT, and I was like, holy shit, I'm going there, like I have grown to the top, and still that not having that degree held me back every single day. Like, every day when I went to work, I thought, my boss is going to realize that I'm just a piece of shit that knows nothing, and he's going to fire me every single day. Like, I would go and sit in my car during lunch, and I would cry, and I would call Lee at work, and I say, I hate my job, I hate it. And it was just fear that I had, like, someone's going to find me out, and they're going to think, why are we paying this bitch so much? And why are we giving her all these responsibilities? Like, she doesn't know what the hell she's doing. That's exactly how I felt every day. And I just felt like like I didn't know anything. And even though, I don't know why, like, I would get raises, my boss would praise me, I would, that wasn't enough for me, because I didn't believe it. And so when I tried to quit my job early, like my younger two were little, my son was starting kindergarten, and I thought, well, one thing I can do is, I know how to be a mom. So I convinced Lee to let me quit my job so I can homeschool the kids, because I just felt like I can't do this work anymore, because I had this fear of being found out and fired. So when I gave my boss notice that I was going to quit to homeschool my kids, he was so sad, and he's like, well, what, we'll put you part-time. He actually gave me a raise and let me pick my hours so I can still be with the company. And I was like, what the heck? Like, what is going on? So I did that. I worked my own hours, and then still, like, that wasn't good enough for me. Like, not that wasn't enough to make me feel worthy or good enough. So
Mhm.
I did that part-time thing for a few more months, and then eventually I just quit. Well, my boss said, well, we're going to keep you on payroll. Like, we'll send you a couple of projects here and there. And he was just not letting me quit. And so I homeschooled the kids for a couple of years. And then little by little, I was getting like more hours and more hours. So eventually I was back to full time. And so I fucked it up again, like, I couldn't do it. I felt like I there was tasks I couldn't do. I was putting them off. I was procrastinating, not because I didn't know how to do them. It's because I thought I wasn't going to do them right, and I was going to get fired. I mean, doesn't that just sound crazy to you?
Yeah, you want to
Don't you
quit.
want to go
You
back
want,
to yourself and shake yourself?
I
Like, what
know.
the fuck were you
No,
thinking?
Yeah.
totally. But it's like, it makes sense, right? You want it to leave on your terms. You didn't want to be rejected. You didn't want the
Yeah.
rejection of you weren't good enough again. It was too hard for you
It,
because you worked so hard. You couldn't have that rejection. You wanted it on your terms,
yeah. I mean, I was trying to be perfect. I was trying to be perfect. And I didn't know, because I felt like I had to work so much harder than everyone else because of that freaking piece of paper that I didn't have, right? And of being a woman, and of being younger than everyone. And then they started to treat me like that. Like they started calling me honey and saying, honey, can you order us lunch? And then I was like, oh, okay, now these motherfuckers, they're sexist. And because that's what how I was um, presenting myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize this at the time. So eventually I ended up quitting, and I went in one day and I was thinking, okay, what am I good at? Well, I'm good at being a mom. I'm good at yoga. Okay, so I'm just going to teach yoga. And that's what I'm going to do. So I went in and I talked to my boss. Actually, I talked to Lee first and I said, I'm just going to quit my job and teach yoga. And I thought he would say, you know what? You're a crazy bitch. Get dressed and go to work. And he's the one that said, do what makes you happy. Like those words came out of his mouth. Do what makes you happy. And then I went in and I found Sage and I came to the previous owner and I said, I want to teach yoga. And he's like, are you certified in yoga? I'm like, no, but I have been doing yoga for 12 years. I can teach it in my sleep. I mean, I had confidence when it came to that. And he's like, well, we don't hire teachers that are not certified, but we just started this training. Like, do you want to join the training? I'm like, hell yeah, I do. And so literally I came in. First of all, I didn't know there was a yoga studio in Fallbrook. It had just been open for a few months, and I'm like, okay, there's yoga. I came in, took my first class on. I called Brian on Friday, on Thursday. He's the previous owner of Sage. I took my first class on Friday, and Saturday I was in teacher training. So it happened just that fast. And so then I went in and I told my boss, I'm quitting and I'm going to teach yoga. And he literally laughed at me. He's like, you're quitting this job to teach yoga. And I said, that's right, motherfucker. Like in my head, like I am, he just thought I was crazy. And then, so I said, I'm giving you a 6-week notice, right? And by that time, I think he was just so tired of me, like being so wishy-washy, right? And so I gave him 6 weeks because I had projects that I wanted to wrap up, and he was like, you know what? We only require 2 weeks. And I was like, wow, like I've been here for 16 years. And he was done with me pretty much. And I was like, but hurt that they were just like, okay, bye now. Like we're gonna take you off payroll. And so it was a weird thing, and it was just happened so fast. And then I quit my job. This was 10 years ago. I started teaching, and then I was certified teaching, and then in 6 months I was the owner of Sage Yoga Studios. And it's just crazy how it all happened, and it all kind of stemmed from me kind of sabotaging myself, and but still also not really loving that job. And but then I came in and I thought, yeah, like I can teach yoga. And then it started all over again with the feelings of being an imposter, because I'm like, fuck, like now I'm a studio owner and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I don't, I have these employees now. And I remember when Vanessa took my class and I'm like, oh my God, there's a teacher in my class, and I was freaking out. Like,
I remember because I was actually part of the studio before you owned it. Like I
Yep.
was in the beginning. I'm one of the OGs that I think there's like 2 or 3 of us that are transferred over, and I was one of them.
Yep.
But I remember like meeting you and Lee, and it was still teacher training, and it was the couples like thing, and you were in there, and then Brian took me to the side. He's like, I think she's gonna own the studio. I'm like, oh really? I'm like, that's so cool. And
Yeah.
and then I remember when it was switched over, and then it was you, and then I was like, hi, I introduced myself before a class, and you're all, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. That's like literally like 10 minutes after I met her, she's like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. She's like, I'm just going with the flow. I'm like, all right, just go with the flow. I mean, going with the flow 10 years later seems like it's going pretty fucking well.
I mean, I figured it out. No, I mean, I was, I thought this is how naive I was. I thought I love yoga and I love people. Like, how hard can this be, right?
Oh man,
never ever owned a business. I've never had employees. I mean, I thought, yeah, my love for yoga and people is going to be enough. And I mean, it was enough to get me started, but oh my gosh, did I have a lot of things I needed to learn and a lot of bumps along the way. But it always just came back of like these thoughts of like, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, what do you think you're doing? Like, you don't know shit, you know, like, and just, you know, like, that's when my life motto started, like, fake it till you make it. And I felt like I was like I told you earlier, like, I was always like, um, playing this role and being this lead actress in my own movie, you know, like just coming in and acting like I knew what the fuck I was doing every day, you know, and then now looking back, it's like, you know, I did not give myself enough credit. Like I did work my ass off. I did, you know, do all the research. I read all the books and I did the work. It was just still like, you know, I came in from just, I hadn't even been a yoga teacher that long, and now I'm a yoga studio owner. Like, what the hell is the Bhagavad Gita? What are the sutras? Like, I knew nothing, and I thought that's when I was like, holy shit, I should not be, you know, owning a studio. Like, I don't know anything about yoga other than the yoga poses, you know, and so all of it. I mean, I was constantly comparing myself to other teachers and other studio owners, and I'm like always, you know, wishing that, oh, I hope nobody comes to my class today because I think I, you know, like really wishing nobody came because I felt like I didn't know what the hell I was talking about, even though my classes were always full, and that didn't even give me the confidence or you know, say, well, maybe you are good, you know. No, I was always thinking, boy, I really suck at this, or like I said, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
But you know what? Like sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
Even when you do have all the
I
knowledge,
mean,
there's always new experiences, right? That are gonna, even for you now, there might be a new lesson this week for you where you're like, I've never had this fucking situation
yeah.
happen, and here it is.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, like when we started this podcast, we literally were Googling how to start a podcast.
I mean, watch our first episode just to compare from
Yeah.
like the ones now. It's so funny. And by the way, I just want to shout out to you right now because you believed in us and you were one of our first sponsors. So I just want to say thank you for believing in us.
Yeah.
And like, again, full circle, you went from like not believing in yourself to being able to believe in others. And I'm like, damn, that's so big. And I do remember your learning curve, but we all have it. And I thought you learned so fast. And I remember you took our studio from it being not known to being very well known. And you've done such good work. And then the community that you've built has gotten me through so many things and so many other people. It's been so beautiful. I just want to give you credit for you saying, Vanessa, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, to like, you know, you're being like, hey, we're going to be opening another studio. Are you cool with like being a teacher there for a while? I'm like, sure. You know, like it's been really cool to see your dreams come true and knowing the small stories before those dreams. Like you being that girl working at the theater, looking across saying, you know, someday I'm going to make it big here. And you did. You have a piece of the pie up in that little plaza that took you forever to get in, which is a hard plaza to be a part of here in our town. Like I heard people try to open businesses all the time and they say no. So amazing.
There is something to be said too about how you've chosen to surround yourself around yoga teachers and people who know more than you and be okay with that, you know, and show some vulnerability with that. They say that like the best leaders are the ones who surround themselves with people better than themselves, or not. I'm not saying anyone's better than you, but you know what I'm saying? Like you're surrounded by just people who excel. And,
surround yourself with those who you want to be like, you know, and I'm not saying like, and that sounds like horrible saying it with imposter syndrome, but like if I admire a quality in somebody, I'm like, man, teach me. Like, how did you get
I want to be
quality?
around that.
Yeah. You want to be around that energy and you want to be around that kind of quality of thought. You know, there is a quality of thought, right? Because you can have shitty thoughts like we've been talking about, or you can learn to get those new healthy ones that come in and then digest and just start freaking washing out all that crap that we all, for every good thought, we give ourselves like 5 to 10 bad ones. Let's just be quite honest.
Yeah.
Like you could do the most, you could save a life in the morning and then later you're like, shit, I didn't say that right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we're so fucked with ourselves sometimes. It's so horrible, but it's the truth. So Reyna, how are you feeling about just the journey from that first day to today with being a yoga studio owner and how you started to grow and develop and went through trials and tribulations on all levels, business, yoga, teaching, PR, HR. Remember we had HR stuff. HR stuff's the whole worst, right? So like all that kind of stuff to where you're sitting today. Like how what are you doing with all that experience? What's happening now with it?
So, well, first of all, I do recognize now that I am a badass, you know, woman business owner. You know, it took me a while to realize, you know, I did this. I
Mhm.
created this. You know, it was always like I never took credit. I never even wanted to be like the owner. Like people would call like the studio, want to talk to the owner. I'll take a message, you know. It was like I don't want to be the owner. Like so now looking at all everything that has happened, I am, you know, proud to say, yes, I did this, you know, and I built this community. I brought these people together, you know, and give credit to my team, of course. But before I would just give credit to everyone else and not myself, you know, like, oh, it was just Brian started this studio and I just kind of took over. Well, yeah, he started it. He didn't do anything with it and then it was only a few months before I was the owner. And so I grew the community, you know, and it was my passion and my love and my connection with people, you know. I just have this is my hometown. I already had my roots, you know. I knew a lot of people, and so yeah, I'm proud of all that. But so yeah, it's been one hell of a journey, and I don't think I'm done yet, right? I'm there's still so many things I want to do and I want to accomplish, and I'll just give a little teaser. There's something big coming, just so you know, something big is coming. So bigger or something's coming. I'll just leave it at that, and we can talk after if you really want to know. But anyway, so stay tuned. Stay tuned. We're not done. We're not done. But yeah, I mean, and now like being a mom and a grandma now, you know, this is where I I I feel like now I have a legacy that I need to think about. Like, what do I want to leave behind for my children and my grandchildren? You know, like I'm that age. I mean, you know, where I'm like, shit. You know, this is my life, and I'm trying to enjoy every day and pause and be grateful, of course, for everything. But now I'm like, yeah, like I'm that age now. Like, holy shit, I'm a grandma, you know, and I people, I am a mentor, you know, and people look up to me, and so now I have to kind of take a step back and think, you know, how do I want to lead? What kind of leader do I want to be? And always comes back to leading with love and compassion, right? And so I don't know. Does that answer your question? I mean, I kind
It
of
does.
Yes.
It does. And I feel like it goes back. It also leads into what you're doing now with your series. If you can
Yeah.
talk about that, I feel like through these lessons, you've been able to develop this with other research and with your experience to make it true. Because when something comes from your heart and experience, people feel that. They can feel that's a
yeah.
sincere experience. So, can you talk about the series you are doing now and how that's kind of, I don't want to say full circle because we still have a whole life to build, but
You're
up to
right.
this point in your
Yeah.
life, it's the full circle, right? To this present moment, to work the work that you're doing with what you've done. So I like you to go in detail. But yes, you did answer my question, and now this is the second part of it.
Yeah. So last year was a tough year for me, you know, with my children struggling on the, you know, my three kids going through their own struggles, and my dad, you know, with his health issues and starts of dementia, and you know, I had a big failure in business. You know, I had a venture that I had been working on, and it kind of burned me a little, and so I was feeling kind of almost sorry for myself, like this is a shit year, you know, like so I actually sought out like professional help. You know, I started doing somatic healing, and in that I, you know, I had already thought I've done all the healing, like I've done everything, you know, like I've read every single self-help book, and I do the yoga, and I do the, you know, the supplements, and I do it all, like, and but throughout these struggles, I realized I have so much more work to do on myself. So and I did the work. I mean, it was such a hard year for me to 2023, but also so much growth and so much more. I learned so much more about myself. So then I thought, gosh, I've gone through all these things. I've, like I said, read all the books, and now I have all this knowledge and I want to help. The first thing, of course, I wanted to help my children, but my kids are like, whatever, mom, you're just old, you don't know anything. So then I thought, well, these damn kids, they just need to fall on their face and
Yeah.
and
Figure it out
learn.
themselves.
Yeah. But I'm like, so I have all these things I want to share, and so I had this idea of this series that I wanted to do. And of course, the little voice came back like, what the fuck who do you think you are? Like, why do you think you can do this? Like, and it's already, I went through all of it. Like, it's already been done. What else can you share that hasn't been shared? Like, go to freaking Google. Google knows everything, like, how could and I had to really fight myself on that. Like, thinking I can say things differently. I have a platform, I have a community, I have things and I can't be the only one who's ever felt this way, right? This was the big thing. Like, I've gone through all these struggles and I've gone through this growth and I have these things that still need to heal and I have this trauma, but I can't be the only one. And I'm sure if there's something that I want to say, other people might want to chime in and say, hey, that happened to me too, or hey, I struggle with that too. So that's when I had this idea, okay, I'm going to start a series, and it's going to be it's going to take a life of its own. I had themes, different things that I wanted to touch on, and I was going to do once a month for the year of 2024. And so I just said, I scheduled it. I did it. I put it together. I put a description. I put it out there and I put it in the newsletter. And then, holy shit, people started to sign up. And I'm like, oh my God, they're signing up. Like, oh,
Now I have to do this.
now I have to do it. Like, it was terrifying. And then, every time I checked, like, if someone else had signed up and people were talking about it and people were excited about it. And then the first one in January, it sold out. Like, we completely filled up. And I was like, I came in and still like, oh my God, like I was having anxiety over it. And you know, it happened, it went through, people came, people loved it, people talked. And then I was like, okay, it's happening, we're doing it. And then the second one in February, same thing, like, holy shit, people are coming now, I have to. And it was like, I have the space, have a theme, and people come together, and whatever my schedule is, my itinerary goes out the freaking window, because we are there to connect, to grow, to share, and I can talk all day long, but it's more about our community and our own experiences and supporting each other, and so now it's kind of taken a different direction, which is fine, because this is what is needed. And so the next one is about being authentic, and so, and
Right.
discovering our authenticity and speaking our truth and everything from our heart. And maybe we'll talk about imposter syndrome. I mean, it's all connected, it's all interwoven, it's all part of being a human, and having these human experiences, and
Yeah.
how can we grow and share and support each other, and I think that what I have to say and what I have to offer is valuable, and it will resonate with someone for sure.
Yes,
Absolutely.
resonance is a beautiful thing, and like you said, like, people can Google things, but they can't Google your own specific experience and connect with that. You talk about like love and compassion being the thing that moves you forward, and I think that that's why people are coming to you, because you have your own story and they can resonate too.
Yes, and also you can Google and watch online things and do things on your own, but I do have to say, we're humans and we're meant to connect with
Yeah,
other people. And whether it be
Yeah.
your series that has this really profound, deeper, not just your own connection to yourself and balancing, you're connecting with others. We did have somebody on our podcast that Julie Stotler, she has a grieving nonprofit. It's like a grieving center, and she supports families that have lost other family members. And pretty much she pairs up somebody that's gone through the same experience. So she lost a child when the child was 6, you know, having someone else that's lost a child, you know, at the same age, same kind of tragedy. There's nothing more healing than when you can hug somebody that knows what it feels like. You know what I mean? And that's the whole experience. Your friend can say, girl, you're okay. You're going to be fine. But it's hard to hear them because you're like, you don't know how this feels.
Yeah.
You do not know how this feels. But going along, just snipping this ending for me is saying, when you can go to on your mat or find a community, even if it's not yoga, it is so healthy to surround yourself by, even if it's for an hour, for people that are there to make themselves better, to in the sense of connecting with themselves. Say they had a fucked up day, or you had a shitty day as a mom, or whatever it is. When I'm just in a yoga stance, it could be the YMCA or whatever else anyone wants to be a part of. But when you are a part of this, you are truly being human. And that is something that is not in our world anymore.
Yeah.
We commute alone. We are in our cubicles. You commute home alone. You're tired. Some people go straight to their devices. They don't have a human connection. And that's why we're so lost. So that's why this is going to be, it is and is becoming so amazingly successful, because you're providing that platform for them to have a meaning with others.
Well, everybody's going there because they have the same goal, right?
Yeah.
They want to grow.
Heal.
They want to be together with other people who want to do the same thing.
And heal.
Yeah.
And feel okay to heal and be okay to be vulnerable. Just
Right.
like Brene Brown says, there's something there. You saying you have imposter syndrome, that was you being vulnerable 100,000.
I mean, like your
%.
entire story, I'm like, me too. Yeah. Yes. I have that theme too. You know, like I'm confident that the people who listen to this have all nodded their head along your whole story.
Yes.
Even though your story is so uniquely yours, there's little bits and pieces where I'm like, ooh, I feel that one.
That's in my storybook of life too. You know, like we all have pages. There's something in everybody's life, something that you can relate to. And this one's a big one. And it's one that can empower you or let you down. And you've chosen to go the other road.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Reyna.
Thank
I mean,
you,
this
guys.
story has been so powerful. Is there anything else you would like to ask?
Let's go to the last
Let's
3
do it.
fun questions.
right.
There are Jeopardy ones where they're, 1 minute or less. So here you go.
Yeah.
So what or who inspires you?
So like I mentioned earlier, I have 3 children, and I have the cutest little 3-year-old grandson, Oliver, and a granddaughter on the way. So my children and my grandchildren, I would have to say, inspire me first, because like I said, I want to be the best version of myself for them. I want to lead with love. I want them to know that they can be strong and they can do anything, right? And I again, what legacy do I want to leave behind? So every day my kids inspire me for sure. But also my Latina entrepreneurs, small business owners or minority, other women inspire me to be great, to do the work, the hard things, and definitely inspired by that. Also my Latina roots, like embracing where I come from and my ancestors, and again, it all goes back to what legacy do I want to leave behind. So all those things
Love it.
inspire me for sure. You too inspire me.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Reyna,
So-
besides imposter syndrome, what's your baggage?
So I have struggled so much with resentment and comparison. I have dealing with this resentment that I have, like if I didn't do this, or if I hadn't married that jerk, how would my life be different? And always going back and going to that movie, like changing the characters of that movie and how my life would be different. So I've tried to conquer that, and this wasn't just until recently, like changing that narrative. Like if I hadn't married that monster, I wouldn't have a beautiful daughter and beautiful grandchildren, right? So changing that from something negative to something positive. So the resentment is something I work on daily. And also the comparison, like I have to stop comparing myself to other yoga studio owners or other people of my age, like thinking it's like getting my ego in check, like thinking I should do this, I should be that, you know, like these are my baggage that I carry that I need to work on. So
You know what's helped me with comparison? Getting off fucking social media.
yeah, yep.
We try to only be on because of the
Fuck that
podcast,
place.
and I'm like, bye.
So true.
Exit.
Yep. I mean, I'm on there for the business, but I
Yeah.
mean, like
You
That's
get
us
sucked
too.
in sometimes,
Yeah.
though. You know, you're like, fuck.
like last year
finger.
or a couple of years ago, like I can't, like you guys have the perfect kids and the perfect life and the perfect car, and my kids don't want to go to prom. What's wrong with my kids? You know, like
Yeah.
that comparison. I'm like, yeah, I can't because I know your life is not perfect. It's whatever
Hell
you put on
no.
social media.
Yeah,
Hell no,
exactly.
it ain't. It is not.
Yep.
All right, this one's a hard one.
Yeah.
And
Or
you
it's a
can-
fun one.
It's a fun one too. Try to answer it, you know, however you can. But when a moment where you fucked up as a mom and what you learned from it.
So my oldest, my daughter is 30, and I feel like I've had 30 years of fucking up, right? To be
Yeah.
truthful. Like, but my youngest, she's 17, and so it's nothing's worse when your kids call you out on your fuck ups, right? So, recently she went for a job interview, and we did the resume, we did the application, I helped her with all that. I hyped her up. I said, you got this, you're great, you're gonna kill it. She goes in, she does it, she comes back, and I'm like, how did it go? She's like, oh, it went really well. But the manager asked me if I would be willing to take out my nose piercing, and I said no. And of course, Mom, I freak out. I'm like, what do you mean? Blah blah blah. If somebody tells you, like, she's not gonna hire you, like she's gonna hire someone without a nose piercing because that's what she wants. Like, why would you say no? I was furious. I got to say, I lost my shit. And she comes back and she's like, well, like, you're the one that's always telling me I gotta stand up for myself. I have to be myself. I have to be comfortable with myself. And I'm like the biggest face.
Yeah.
Palm in the face moment. We're like, oh shit, you know, like.
But
yeah.
it happens, you know,
It
that
totally
reaction.
does.
It does. You had an expectation, didn't get met, but
Well, it's
the way it is.
always a projection too.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
you want
it
it so hard for them. Yeah.
exactly.
But yeah, like she said, Mom, like, yeah. And I was like, fuck, yeah, I did fuck that one up. But, you know, and I'm like, good for you. You know, she's the little one. Oh,
she did what you wanted her to do. She stood up for what she believed
Yes.
in. So there
Yeah.
you go.
Definitely.
So then I bet you reflected on that and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, now I'm proud.
Definitely learned that. She taught me a big lesson that day. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it's like I said, every day my role as a mom is changing, you know, like my son is 18. He's wanting to be an adult. He's wanting to do his thing. And I keep trying to say, but wait, you're just a little boy, like, you know, and it's so hard being a parent, as you both know. But, you know, it's also such a gift to have these little children and
Yes.
all that. So,
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your honesty and opening up the diary of your life. I know for people listening, it is a different experience when you're sitting here and you know strangers are going to be listening. And even I am your friend, but I haven't heard some of these details. I've heard some, but not all. And I just want to thank you for being so honest, and I'm going to say brave. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're going to say, yeah, I was brave. You were brave
You're
today.
going to take the
Yeah,
compliment.
take it and love it and run with
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah. So thank you for being on today and your time, and keep going. I'm excited to see what's to come for you because
Yep,
you've done great
yep.
things. Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Thank you,
I
Reyna.
appreciate you. Thank you. And I appreciate you. And like I said, such an honor to be with you too.
If you'd like to keep up with the latest, see more shenanigans, or just connect with us, go to Instagram where you'll find us at Real Motherfuckers Podcast.
And also, if you'd like to see some real juicy mama boobs, you can see it in action on YouTube, also at Real Motherfuckers Podcast.
And enough with the free Costco samples.
You can start paying up. Actually, you can also just support us monetarily on Patreon, where you'll get some more cool exclusive content. And you can find us there at
Real Motherfucker Fuckers Podcast.
We Fuck Up on this show.
Yeah.
Nothing's perfect.
Hence the name.